Welcome back to the Sage Audio channel. Today we'll showcase our picks for the best sounding mastering equalizer plugins. We'll discuss their functionality as well as listen to each on a rap, pop, and indie folk mix, and then discuss how the plugins worked for that genre. So if you're looking for a good mastering equalizer, stick around for the full video. But first, if you're an artist, engineer, or producer, and you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample of it. All you have to do is set up an account, upload the song, and we can do the rest. So first, let's look at the Chandler Limited Curve Bender Mastering EQ. The unit is broken up into left and right or mid and side depending on your routing. The red dials are your center frequency for the 4 bands of EQ. The lowest and highest can also be switched between shelf and bell. The 4 bands can be amplified or attenuated 5 dB, meaning only relatively small changes can be made. The Q value can be switched between 1 and 1.5. Changing this value also changes the gain from 5 dB of amplification or attenuation to 15 dB, making it possible to create more aggressive changes. Now, each channel has a low and high pass filter, as well as a master output in the center of the plugin. Lastly, the channels can be linked or controlled independently. Let's take a listen to the Chandler Limited Curve Bender on a rap track.
I'm in it for keepsake, in the field with the cleat lace, beat flick with the bare face and a slick tongue, that's what she say. She look good, she a big tease when she bite lip with the wink face. Hella bad when she throwing it back, she bring that my way for the team play. For Pete's sake, I'm above average, I padded my stats, I gotta matter what he say. I'm the 2010, got LeBron James off the backboard, type of bad boy. Hold it down for the task force, if I run his fade, then you ask for it. Cross need to laugh more, I keep it 100 on dashboard.
Now, when using this plugin on a rap track, both low and high frequency amplification is important. The Curve Bender can go as low as 35 Hz and as high as 20 kHz, making it great for accentuating some of the more extreme frequencies. And because rap is known for its aggressive EQ curve, having this option makes the Chandler Limited suitable for rap and trap music. Next, let's listen to this plugin on a pop track.
Got a little lost in the thought of you and me. If I told you I was living just a little bit in the past, just because the future scares me, and that everything should pass.
This plugin works well at accentuating some of the mids of a pop track, as well as bringing the low and high ranges into focus. You can cut some of the sub-frequencies with the low cut and then boost a little at 91 Hz or 150 Hz to bring the kick forward a bit. The classic tone of the EQ works well here, as it gives the clean pop mix some needed character. Next, let's listen to the Chandler Limited on an indie folk track.
I've been thinking about my options, every detail in my head, but it doesn't really matter, nothing matters, so I cry instead. I've been running in circles, trying to catch my breath. I've been trying everything I can, but I ain't got nothing left.
By using 800 Hz to 1.8 kHz, I was able to bring some of the vocal forward and create a full sounding mid-range. Furthermore, some slight attenuation of the high and low ranges can focus the sound into a narrower spectrum, a technique that is typically only appropriate for folk and lo-fi genres. By warming the mid-range and taming some of the highs, the Chandler Limited Curve Bender creates a classic and full sound. Next, let's look at the FabFilter Pro Q3. With the Pro Q3, you can create up to 24 bands, each with 9 different possible filter types. The bands can be located on the left, the right, mid, side, or stereo, which is the default. Now, these bands can range from 10 Hz to 30 kHz and have a range of 60 dB. The cues range from pinpoint precision to the entire frequency spectrum. The phase can be altered between zero latency to natural phase and linear phase to achieve different levels of phase cancellation. Now, a couple of my favorite functions include dynamic bands, which allow your bands to respond to the incoming signal. I typically use these for expansion when I'm mastering. Another great function is gain Q, which creates a relationship between the Q of a curve and its gain, which more closely emulates analog consoles. Let's take a listen to the FabFilter Pro Q3 on a rap track.
I'm in it for keepsake, in the field with the cleat lace, beat freak with the bare face and a slick tongue, that's what she say. She look good, she a big T face, hella bad when she throw wait for the team play. For Pete's sake, I'm above average, I padded my stats, I gotta matter what he say. I'm the 2010 young LeBron James off the backboard, type of bad boy. Hold it down for the task force, if I run his fade, then you ask for it. Cross need to laugh more, I keep it 100 on dashboard.
By making a dynamic band near the kick and bass, you can expand some of those lower frequencies, making them more impressive, even when you're applying heavy limiting. Now, this is best when you're using it as a mid-channel band. A similar idea works for the high frequencies. You can create a dynamic band above 5 kHz and place it on the side channel. Now, this will widen the stereo image of the high frequencies and make them more dynamic and impressive. Now, I think a zero or a natural phase will work best for rap, since linear sounds a bit too clean. Next, let's listen to the FabFilter Pro Q3 on a pop track.
Got a little lost in the thought of you and me. If I told you I was living just a little bit in the past, just because the future scares me, and that everything should pass.
In this example, I moved the dynamic low frequency band up to expand some of the punch of the kick instead of its sub. For this pop track, I like natural or medium latency phase. Natural makes it sound forward and clear but with depth, and linear adds even more depth but lacks some of the forwardness of natural phase. Lastly, let's take a listen to this plugin on an indie folk track.
I've been thinking about my options, every detail in my head, but it doesn't really matter, so I cry instead. I've been running circles, trying to catch my breath. I've been trying everything I can, but I ain't got nothing left.
On the folk track, I used a mid-band to accentuate the mid-range of the vocal. To my ear, this introduced some fullness and a little warmer of a tone that matched the production well. Additionally, I used a dynamic band to attenuate some sibilance and a sideband to make up for any lost high-frequency presence. Next, let's take a look at the TubeTech Equalizer Mark II by SoftTube. This equalizer combines two analog emulations, the PE1C, which allows you to equalize low and high frequencies, and the ME1B, which focuses on the mid-range. Up top to the left is the low-frequency band, which can either be boosted or attenuated. This ranges from 20 to 100 Hz. The high-frequency band can only be boosted, and it ranges from 1 kHz to 16 kHz. The bandwidth for these two bands can be controlled with a middle bandwidth rotary. Now, if you want to attenuate the high-frequency range, you can use the toggle on the top right to select the frequency and the attenuation knob to its left to turn it down. The ME1B has 3 bands, a low, mid, and high. The low and high bands can only be boosted, while the mid-band can only be attenuated. Now, both equalizers offer an output gain dial, meaning you can balance your overall mid-range with your overall high and low ranges by adjusting these dials. Let's listen to the TubeTech Equalizer Mark II on a rap track.
I'm in it for keepsake, in the field with the cleat lace, beat freak with the bare face and a slick tongue, that's what she say. She look good, she a big tease when she bite lip with the wink face, hella bad when she throwing it back, she bring that my way for the team play. For Pete's sake, I'm above average, I padded my stats, I gotta matter what he say. I'm the 2010 young LeBron James off the backboard, type of bad boy. Hold it down for the task force, if I run his fade, then you ask for it. Cross need to laugh more, I keep it 100 on dashboard.
I found that for this track, boosting 100 Hz and 16 kHz with a moderate Q has some good results. Now, how you affect the mid-range is going to depend on the track, but boosting 700 Hz to 1 kHz is going to bring the mid-range forward. Due to its lack of controls, I probably wouldn't use this EQ in mastering rap, but it has a great tone nonetheless. Next, let's listen to this plugin on a pop track.
Got a little lost in the thought of you and me. If I told you I was living just a little bit in the past, just because the future scares me, and that everything should pass.
When using this EQ on a pop track, I like the sound of cutting some of the mids with the master output of the ME1B, while boosting the output of the PE1C. Now, this really accentuated the low and high frequencies and gave some variance to the frequency response. Like the rap track, I boosted the lows and highs while cutting some of the mids using the frequency bands. Now, boosting some of the lower mid-range also created a more forward sound indicative of pop. Next, let's listen to this plugin on an indie folk track.
I've been thinking about my options, every detail in my head, but it doesn't really matter, nothing matters, so I cry instead. I've been running circles, trying to catch my breath. I've been trying everything I can, but I ain't got nothing left.
This is where this EQ sounded best suited. Its broader curves and classic design are more indicative of older genres. That said, it works well on this indie folk track. I boosted the mid-range while attenuating some of the bass and high frequencies. I accomplished this with both the bands and the output dials. I found that using the TubeTech Equalizer on this track gave it a more classic timbre than some of the other EQs that we've tried. Next, let's listen to the Mag Audio EQ4 by Plugin Alliance. The EQ4 has 6 bands, a 10 Hz sub, a 40 Hz bell, a 160 Hz bell, a 650 Hz bell, a 2.5 kHz shelf, and an air band that can extend up to 40 kHz. A level trim is also available to compensate for some of the changes that the curves will cause. Let's listen to the Mag Audio EQ4 on a rap track.
I'm in it for keepsake, in the field with the cleat lace, beat freak with the bare face and a slick tongue, that's what she say. She look good, she a big tease when she bite lip with the wink face. Hella bad when she throwing it back, she bring that my way for the team play. For Pete's sake, I'm above average, I padded my stats, I gotta matter what he say. I'm the 2010, yeah, LeBron James off the backboard, type of bad boy. Hold it down for the task force, if I run his fade, then you ask for it. Cross need to laugh more, I keep it 100 on dashboard.
This plugin sounds great on a rap track due to the sub and air bands. Boosting some of the sub really brings out the tone and power of 808s, while the air band brings life to the hi-hats. The 40 Hz bell can really make the kick sound impressive, while 160 Hz, at least in this example, sounded better when it was attenuated slightly. 650 Hz brings the mid-range forward and increases the overall presence of the track, while 2.5 kHz adds some much-needed clarity. Next, let's listen to this plugin on a pop track.
Got a little lost in the thought of you and me. If I told you I was living just a little bit in the past, just because the future scares me, and that everything should pass.
Now, I didn't find the Mag EQ4 as useful for pop as I did rap, but some of the functions still augmented the sound. 650 Hz worked great for bringing the vocal's warmth and presence forward, while the air band was great at brightening the sound. I used a little of 160 Hz to accentuate the kick, but I couldn't get the low end to sound exactly how I wanted it to with this EQ. Lastly, let's listen to the EQ on an indie folk track.
I've been thinking thinking about my options, every detail in my head. But it doesn't really matter, nothing matters, so I cry instead. I've been running circles, trying to catch my breath. I've been trying everything I can, but I ain't got nothing left.
Very subtle changes worked well for this folk track, while with the other EQs I found myself cutting some of the highs. With this EQ, I chose to add some back in. A gentle curve at 650 Hz helped bring some body to the track. Next, let's check out the Harmony EQ by Voxengo. The Harmony EQ offers clean digital equalization with the option of introducing harmonic distortion and expansion. This makes it a great option for both transparent equalization and colorful mild distortion. You can create up to 7 bands ranging from 20 Hz to 38 kHz. This makes the Harmony EQ great for adding some air to your masters. Some additional functions include oversampling, inverse gain, and an input and output dial. Let's take a listen to the Harmony EQ on a rap track.
I'm in it for keepsake, in the field with the cleat lace. Beat freak with the bare face and a slick tongue, that's what she say. She look good, she a big tease when she bite lip with the wink face. Hella bad when she throwing it back, she bring that my way for the team play. For Pete's sake, I'm above average, I padded my stats. I gotta matter what he say. I'm the 2010 young LeBron James off the backboard, type of bad boy. Hold it down for the task force. If I run his fade, then you ask for it. Cross need to laugh more. I keep it 100 on dashboard.
This plugin works great for creating an aggressive low and high frequency range. Harmonics make these sections clear and powerful, while expansion adds some dynamic and punch to those sections. I enjoyed boosting both the low and high ends while using the most aggressive harmonic and expansion options. Next, let's take a listen to the Harmony EQ on a pop track.
Got a little lost in the thought of you and me. If I told you I was living just a little bit in the past, just because the future scares me, and that everything should pass.
Boosting the low and high ranges sounded great with this EQ, as did the extra dynamic option. For the harmonics, I found that the highest setting sounded a little too aggressive, so I opted for the second highest. Now, considering you can place bands at any frequencies that you want, there's no reason that this plugin can't be adjusted to the needs of just about any pop track. Lastly, let's take a listen to this plugin on an indie folk track.
I've been thinking about my options, every detail in my head. But it doesn't really matter, nothing matters, so I cry instead. I've been running circles, trying to catch my breath. I've been trying everything I can, but I ain't got nothing left.
I controlled some of the sibilants by attenuating high frequencies, but ensured it didn't sound too compressed or muted with some expansion. Additionally, I added in some soft harmonics to fill the sound a little without overwhelming the natural tone of the recording. Boosting some high mids made the recording sound forward and highlighted the vocals. Again, given this plugin's versatility, it's going to work well for a lot of genres. So, these are our thoughts on some of the best sounding mastering equalizer plugins, but what do you think? Is there a plugin that you love, but we didn't mention it here? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, if you're an artist or an engineer, send us one of your mixes at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample of it. All you have to do is set up an account, upload the song, and we do the rest. But thank you so much for watching. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and share this video with your friends. This way we know if you'd like to see more videos like this one. Also, you can subscribe to the channel. We release new videos every week, and subscribing is the best way to stay up to date. There's a comment section where you can leave your thoughts on this video, or you can make a suggestion for a future video. And again, if you're an artist or an engineer and you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample of it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.